All right, man. So let's check out this clip. It says Tucker responds to Trump's latest statement. This is a clip of Tucker Carlson. Let's see what he has to say here.
This morning, the president of the United States, whom I campaigned for and defended daily for 11 years, not attacking him, but he issued a statement threatening to destroy the civilian infrastructure of Iran, including the desalination plants and energy grid of Iran. And that seems to be a threat against innocence. I don't know any other way to read it. How would you assess that? Is that consistent with a just war?
No. And as you said, Tucker, we have to acknowledge that it is to directly do that is wrong, is immoral. Going back to that basic principle I started with, anytime civilian life is devastated, it's not done morally. It's not something we can just turn a blind eye and say, well, we got to do this. The large-scale destruction of civilian lives is never morally justified. Like I said, if I'm a broken record making that point, I believe I need to be, because the more I think about that, the more I pray about that, the more I look at what's happening, it says, let's put a stop to this. Let's pull back from this. And I understand from, what I see in the news that there are efforts of talking about some sort of solutions, but the talk seems to always.
What puzzles me about this whole thing, man, is that there was a lot of hype about the art of the deal and negotiation, and you're able to talk and communicate and make a deal and stuff. And what happened here, man? All right? Can people talk to each other anymore, bro? Could this have been avoided, What happened here? This is so crazy, man. Wouldn't you want to find out why the other side, right? Sit down. The other thing that I was pondering also was, because I know that the U.S. doesn't have an embassy in Iran, but they have an embassy here in the States, right? I've seen them in the United Nations, right? The Islamic State of Iran. There's like an ambassador in there. Isn't that crazy? U.S. is not allowed to have an embassy there, right? They have it as a. They're using it now to for propaganda, right? Of hating the states, calling the United States the Great Satan. But they're allowed to have a building in the United States, bro. That's so stupid. What is that? Clearly, we're able to talk to them, right? Sit down, address the issues, right? Hey, do this or else. Let's have the negotiations of the first time they were taking place. Let's have a videotape of that, phone recording of that. When we the people, right? Full transparency, right? That's the whole thing, right? Government of transparency. I'd like to see those tapes. I'd like to hear those recordings, right? See how they went. See who was playing games. But they don't release it. Why? Because they're hiding something. Just like they don't release the names of the Epstein files. They're hiding something. And when you're hiding something, just by doing that act, you're perceived as guilty, as you must have done something wrong, right? Because if you hadn't, you would have just let the truth out. Here it is. Here's the tape. Oh, here's the tape subtopic, right? You were asking for transparency. Here we can see these clowns, right? That we were negotiating with in Iran. And here's the runarounds, right? Here's the record of the tapes, It's not, and nobody asked for it, right? Clearly something is off.
Have much less focus and much less power behind it than the bombs and the destructive forces. I guess that is, by human nature, maybe that's somewhat natural, that when you've got the power, it's hard to restrain yourself from using it. We see that played out in so many ways. But yes, that is where the moral values have to kick in for the individual man or the individual nation and the leader that is a man or a group of men or women that are leading a nation, they need to constantly go back to those principles and asking themselves, is this justifiable? Is this something that is moral to do? And if it's not moral, then we should just put up a big bright red stop sign and say, we're not going to do this because it is morally questionable, much less clearly immoral. And when we go down the path of saying, well, we've got to do some immoral things, I mean, it's like the end justifies the means. I mean, some basic principles of philosophical, logical thought that have guided nations and individuals through history.
I would get why, to put out that statement, and I get the reason behind it, right? And that is most, you would do something like that to get the people, to do something crazy, right? It was already crazy, destabilize their economy. It was one, weakening their whatever, their reals, I think is what their currency is called. But if you can starve a people or keep them from water, from power, right, from comforts, from things that should be a right. Water and food should be a right. If you can keep them from that, that will stir the masses for sure. And that's the only reason that I think that they would want to do something like this. But again, what we're being told is that the people of Iran that, are they're also fighting, they don't have weapons. That's what we're being told. And the regime does. Those that are in power do. Now, if it was me, right, and I was the regime, and it was the case that the people, and I'll, for the sake of argument, I'll go with this as well. That if it was the case that the people there wanted to free Iran, and I'm the regime, I'd be like, well, they don't want us here, right? You get out, right? Okay, I'm just going to leave then. You don't want me here, I'm going to leave, right? I'm not going to try to convince you of, you don't want anything to do with this, then this is not for you, right? Whatever the beliefs are. But that's just me, right? There's people who, like this guy's saying here, once they're in power, it's hard to... This works both ways. They're talking about Israel and the States and what they're claiming that they're going to be doing. This works the other way as well. Those that are in power are not so easy, will not easily give up their power, right? And so that's why they have to overthrow a peoples or whatever, those that are in charge. But again, I think a lot of this could have been avoided.
If we get on a path where we say the end justifies the means, then the means can become so immoral that it's just devastating for not just the individuals or the nations involved, but for all of humanity. We've got to be very cautious about going down that path. And I'm afraid that many of the things that we've seen have crossed that line of just saying, we believe, yeah, this is evil. Okay, it's evil, but we've got to do it for the good end. That is very dangerous territory.
Also common, I think. People, as you said, who have power tend to misuse it, an often noted phenomenon because it's true. What's different, at least in my lifetime, is seeing self-described Christian leaders not only defend violence, but attack anyone who questions its use and then use the Bible to justify it. So I guess what I'm saying is one of the battles here is over what Christianity is as a faith. And that seems to me a very important battle. Okay,
I tell my dad all the time, I say like, if people were, because it's one thing to say, right? It's one thing to be loud about it, like Peter, Jesus, I love you, and I'm a Christian, and Jesus this and that, and he denied him 3 times, right? That does nothing, right? People who tell you they love you and stuff, right? Do you really? Peter was out about it, and he ended up denying him, that he ever even knew the man, right? That he ever even knew Jesus, even after witnessing everything that he did, right? All of the miracles that he did, he still denied him. Imagine that. And so I tell my dad, right, we all say these things, right? But who in the morning, the first thing when they woke up, who? You know, who in the morning when they first woke up, the first thing they did was thank the Father in heaven, acknowledged him, loved him, blessed him? Nobody, right? Nobody, and I'm willing to wager nobody did that. Nobody did that. The first thought that crossed the mind as soon as anybody woke up, nobody did that, right? And so, it's one thing to say. I understand what he's trying to say here, you know. It's hypocritical, and it is, right? Now, this is something that now, if you're going to be real about it, understand that the world is going to hate you. Number one, the world is going to hate you. Jesus said, right, to take heart, you know, the world hated me first. We're called to turn the other cheek, right? Now, that there's many implications to that, right? This does not mean to get careless, right? You're still going to take care of what you have. You're still going to defend what you have. But what it's trying to say is, you know, show them the Christ. What would Jesus have done, right? He sat down with the opposition, right? He sat down with the Pharisees of the day. He sat down with the Romans when he was being questioned. He answered the questions, some of them. The ones that were relevant to have been answered. But, you know, it's men. It's men who do these things, you know. The greed, whether it be for honor, for, you know, some prideful thing. Something where it's like you're losing and you're losing bad, and, you know, you're losing against the peoples that are, you know, not as advanced as you are technologically, right? You know, who knows what the truth is, man. Who knows what the truth is of what's really going on out there? Who knows?
A conversation. So what you're seeing some Christian leaders do is say, well, there's violence throughout the Bible, and God justifies it, in some cases defends it through what the Christians call the Old Testament. From beginning to end, there's violence against innocents. So
not just in the Old Testament, right? In the New Testament too, we see Paul. He was the terrorist of the time, right? You know, unaliving disciples or apostles and stuff. He was against the message. Later he converted, of course, when God took his side, when Jesus appeared to him and asked him, you know, why are you persecuting me? Even in the book of Revelations, we see about what's coming and the horrors and stuff, right? We can't even imagine what that's going to be. You know, it says that the people that are alive at the time, that their hearts will fail them out of fear of what they're going to be witnessing, right? Who, you know, that's going to be scary, man. We can't even begin to imagine what that is. And I also tell my family and friends, I'm like, you think these movies are scary, right? About demonic possession and the devil and stuff. And while it is scary, right? Now imagine the one that made that. The one that made them. You can't even begin to imagine what that is. If that's scary, now imagine the one that made them, right? You have no idea where the only thing you can do is just kneel, surrender, and that's all you can do. Your tongue will free from you. You cannot speak. You cannot act. The only thing you can do is just surrender. I'm imagining, right? It's like Daniel in the lion's den, bro. What else can you do is just pray, you know. Now you're in it. Now you're in it. Now you're in the presence, right? Who knows what that is, right? But the Revelation is calling that there's going to be some violence. Heads are going to roll, you know. Make no mistake. That's what it says is going to happen. Okay? And it's going to be scary. And out of fear, people's hearts are going to fail them. And then it also says that there's going to come a time where it's going to be so chaotic and crazy that people are going to be looking for death. It says they're going to want to die, but death will flee from them. Imagine that. That means you can take your car, right, with not having a seatbelt, going 180 miles an hour, run into a concrete barrier, get ejected out of the windshield, and you're not going to die. You can jump off the highest building, you're not going to die. You can throw yourself into the ocean, you're not going to drown. What is that? What's going to be happening that is your way out. You want that, and death is going to just keep fleeing from you. You can set yourself on fire, death is gonna flee from you, right? So it's not a pretty picture. Now I get what he's saying also here, the justification of the Old Testament, right? And that those killings and stuff. Yeah, this is what we call dispensations, right? It was a time for those things when they had to take place, and a time for when things had to take place, right? For every time there's a season, right? There's a time for war, there's a time for peace, there's a time to reap, there's a time to sow, Ecclesiastes. But we're in a new time, right? And if this by all means has to be wartime, then it is wartime. And that's all. That's all we can do, right? We elected these people into power. Now the only thing we can do is to pray for them and pray that they make the right choices. That's all we can do. Ultimately, whatever the outcome is, God is in command. Ultimately. So they're not allowed to do anything that God has not already allowed for them to do. And that should bring you solace and peace. And while the news lines are scary, right? Keep in mind, again, and I'll say it again, God is in control, and He will not allow them to do something that He has not already allowed. Okay? Just keep that in mind.
Okay. What is your response to that?
Well, Tucker, quite simply, probably not surprising, my response is Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
If we claim, which I do, and I do my best. I mean, I'm a sinner. I mess up all the time. We do individually if we're smart enough to be humble enough to acknowledge that. We as nations and we as individuals, we get off the mark. We mess up, but we can always repent of that and seek again to follow the truth that is Christ. And that's the distinction that I would make. If people are called,
I think there's a Bible verse that says, I don't know where it is, but it says something like, my best deeds are dirty rags, before you. Your very best. Imagine that your very best is dirty rags before the Lord, bro. What the hell is that, bro?
calling themselves Christians, we are of the body of Christ that is His church. And we have to look to Him. Yes, in the Old Testament, there are many examples of destructive power, but that is not the world that we live in. We believe that Jesus Christ has redeemed everything.
Yep.
And one of the key points of Jesus Christ, and St. Paul says it very well, we are neither Greek nor Roman. We are not individual nations. We are Christian. And to use Christianity as a weapon against one part of its body to another part of its body that's a misuse of the message of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. If we look to Him, I mean, He died on the cross because He embraced that freely as a man mm-hmm. and as the Son of God. Mm-hmm. But He was willing to do that. He was willing to personally receive the greatest violence of destroying His body and His human.
Now, the way that Hollywood portrays that, how it went down, right? They usually put like some kind of loincloth to protect his privates, right? To not show the nudity aspect. In reality, Jesus Christ was completely naked on the cross. For humiliation purposes. Okay. Before a bunch of people to see, right? Now, imagine that. That He could take that shame, right? All of this, again, this will be a conversation for another day, but this also ties into Adam and Eve, right? Where, who told you that you were naked, Who has told you that you're naked and that you're ashamed, right? He's like, I'm the creator. I'm not ashamed of anything, But they were ashamed, right? And so it's the fulfillment of the whole thing. He calls himself the second Adam, This will be a conversation for another day, of course.
Life for the sake of the peace that He brings. And if we look to Jesus Christ, we can't justify the violence that we're seeing. You can hearken back to the Old Testament, but if you believe...
While all of this is happening as well in Africa, we're hearing that They're unaliving a lot of Christians too, but the media, for the most part, is silent on it, and it's sad to see that Tucker Carlson is not using his platform to raise alarms to that. Well, not that I have seen, but I'll look for it. Let me know in the comments if there is something I can react to it. But a lot of these voices are silent in regards to that matter, and it's sad to see, that you've been given platforms and you don't use them for good. I'm not saying that what's happening in Africa is good. I'm saying bring awareness to it. Bring awareness to what's happening there, right? These are our Christian buddies. He just said right here. Right, the body of Christ, there's Christians there, man, that are being executed on in mass numbers.
Jesus Christ is the new covenant that he came out of that world of the Old Testament. He is of Hebrew origin, and we should embrace that absolutely. That is historical reality, but he came to bring a new covenant and to bring a redemption of all of that. And just one example of what Christ, if we look to Christ, he's often saying, yes, we used to do this, but this is the new way that through the Father sending me to you is being revealed. It used to be an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That cannot be that way with us, he says to his disciples. And we have to really listen to that. We may not like listening to Christ himself, but that is what we're called to, especially if we call ourselves Christian. That is probably, as you point out, Tucker, one of the greatest issues that we have to face now, because there are many non-Christians in the world. And for Christianity to be really co-opted and hijacked in the way that we're seeing is destructive to the message of truth that is Jesus Christ. Because I can imagine people are saying, well, if this is what Christianity is really all about, I've had considered it, but I'm not going to even look at Christianity if that's what it's about. It's
a false Christianity that's being portrayed. Make no mistake, nothing of what you're seeing is Christian at all. It's not. I'm sorry to say, it's not at all. There's a lot of people that have a misconception that the United States is a Christian nation. It is not at all either. Here you have the freedom to be whatever you want to be, to do whatever you want to do. It's just open. We're not living in the Crusades, but wouldn't it be something if that came back, though? That'd be something, huh?
Not what it's about. But when voices are saying we can go, again, going back to that basic idea of we can destroy civilians violently and in drastic ways and say that it's moral because we're claiming to be Christian, that's nonsensical, and it's offensive to Christ himself as anything could be. He is a man of peace, and that it doesn't mean just let yourself be run over, but real peace is about respecting our lives and the lives of others, and always seeking without violence to embrace the truth that sets us free. So
that's what it all is, bro. We're just after the truth, everybody, right? This man is making very good points, and that ultimately is what is going to to bring peace, would be to get everybody to the truth. But at this time, everybody has their own truth. They have their truth. It's their truth, and everybody has their own truth, and my truth and your truth.
I guess what I would say to Christians that are claiming sort of Old Testament justification, show me that in Christ, and they're not going to find it.
So we're still in the middle of Lent.
No, you're not going to find it. You won't find it at all. Very interesting takes. Again, it's a shame that, let me know in the comments if there's anything where Tucker and other podcasters like him are talking about the atrocities being committed on Christians in Africa. I'd be interested to see that. I won't say that he's not talking about it. I'm just going to say I haven't seen it. It'd be interesting to check out for sure, so I can react to it as well. But let me know what you think in the comments about this, right? You think that there's fake Christianity, people who portray to or masquerade as Christians to push agendas, right? And that's not real Christianity. So let me know what you think in the comments. You know what to do. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, share, follow, repost, all of that good stuff. And I will see you all in the next one, man. Peace.